how do we make all that happen? Because they don't understand. It becomes a marketing problem. It becomes an understanding problem. But let me just tell you just this. When Toby and Edith get it, then everything starts happening at light speed for all of us. All the legislation, everything in every way starts really happening like light speed. And why? And here's the whole why. Toby and Edith vote. All the politicians want to get reelected. Toby and Edith control the absolute control. So with all that being said, we got to do one thing. We got to make sure wherever we go, we bring Toby and Edith with us. If we bring Toby and Edith with us, all kinds of goodness will happen.
Definitely all eyes on DC these days, so I agree with that. Implementing this is really important, and I know, Senator Lummis, you've thought a lot about that. How does the reserve become implemented in a way that's responsible?
When you're $37 trillion in debt, you don't want to borrow more money to buy Bitcoin. You want to use assets that are underperforming and convert them to Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin Act would have us first use the money that, as Senator Blackburn mentioned, is in the asset forfeiture accounts to be the basis for the first year's purchase of Bitcoin. We think we have about 200,000 Bitcoin in asset forfeitures. We're still trying to find out what the exact number is. Now it's been classified, so the three of us are going to have to go to a classified briefing to understand why they classified the asset forfeiture funds in
That's
Bitcoin.
right.
That said, then in years 2 through 5, we can buy 200,000 Bitcoin by converting what we have in what's called gold certificates. Now, they're held by the United States at their 1974 value, which is somewhere, I don't know, between $36 and $45 each. Now, each of those could be brought up to current fair market value for gold, which is over $3,000 now, and then use it to buy Bitcoin. And honestly, we have enough assets in underperforming assets that we can get 5% of the world's Bitcoin without borrowing a single dime.
So everybody buy Bitcoin now. Each of you spend a ton of time in DC, and then you go home to your home districts. I would love to hear the questions that you get about your support of Bitcoin, your support of innovation as you travel back home. Maybe Senator Blackburn, you could start us off.
Yes, and Lauren, as I mentioned, Nashville is a very entrepreneurial town. And of course, we have Bitcoin Park in Nashville. And all across our wonderful state, whether it's the West, the Middle, or the East, we have Bitcoin mining operations that are choosing to locate there in Tennessee. We have a wonderful, reliable energy source. We are a leader in working toward nuclear power with the work that the TVA is doing and with SMRs. So people in Tennessee are beginning to pay attention to this. I will also add, Chattanooga, Tennessee is developing a commercialized quantum network. And so you've got companies that are locating there. In Tennessee, people like the idea that you have Bitcoin coming into the state, that there are mining operations coming into the state. They look at this as high-paying jobs. They look at this as jobs of the future, and are, as you see companies like Oracle, like Amazon, like the XAI that is in Memphis, and as they choose Tennessee to be their home, people say, this is what is going to give us jobs for our kids and our grandkids, and they want to see it there. So they're making room for these companies and putting the pressure on TVA to make certain they can supply all the power that is going to be needed.
I love to hear that. Senator Justice, how about West Virginia?
Well, West Virginia has surely got a ways to go, like a lot of states. We've got to get the understanding correct without any question, but I want to deviate just 1 second, because one thing that is enormously important, and it's just this, I have the privilege of being on the Small Business Committee and the Ag Committee and the Energy Committee. Honestly, if we don't watch, we're going to just spin around a couple of times, and a year and a half from today, we're going to have an energy crisis in this country like you can't imagine. And we got to get moving. We got to get moving right now. Yep. You can't imagine what a hold that you have and what a player that you are in all the energy sector that is coming at us, and we need you. We need you so badly, it's off the chart. Now, West Virginia is an energy state. And we got a lot of really smart people there that have done an awful lot with energy forevermore. So we understand energy. Like Bo Jackson said, Bo knows. Well, West Virginia knows energy. And they know of the crisis that is absolutely right at our doorstep. And they know of the potential that you have. You see, that's why I go back to just this. All of us together, we're from 3 different states. We're from 3 different areas of the globe, but yet we absolutely all get it. We all in this room get it. And absolutely now what we've got to do is make sure those out there get it. Because when they get it, then all the politicians and everybody will move at light speed, like I've already said. We've got a ways to go, but we can get there, and we can get there now. But we got to really pull the rope together, and we got to pull it right this minute. The last thing I'd tell you is just this. I had a fellow a long time ago and everything. He used to look at me and say, any frog that's not proud of their own pond isn't much of a frog. So we got to be super proud right now. So let's get with it.
And Senator Lummis, in the last few minutes we have, would love to hear about Wyoming, and then also what everyone here can do to support this bill as well.
Thank you. Wyoming exports 12 times more energy than it consumes. So like Senator Justice, we know how to produce energy. We have Bitcoin mining equipment pulled up right next to oil and gas wells that have not yet been connected to pipelines. They are mining while that methane's being vented and using the vented methane, so we're getting an environmental win-win. And there are other examples of where Bitcoin mining is being used around the country to take advantage of energy and baseload balancing, like they're doing in Texas. When you have stable baseload, it works better. And so in Texas, they'll ramp down during the day when activities that are not mining Bitcoin related are occurring, and ramp up at night when the converse is true, balancing that base load. Bitcoin's an advantage to this country in terms of energy consumption, energy adaptability, and is helping pave the way to artificial intelligence. We know that the one impediment for America being dominant in the artificial intelligence race is in our need for energy. And Bitcoin is helping transition us into a much more efficient energy-consuming nation as we move into the artificial intelligence age.
Listen up. We are about to create the brand new Game of Thrones game.
Oh, so the main character is obviously Jon Snow, right?
And one of the things we're doing in Tennessee is engaging the hyperscalers when we look at small modular reactors and then finding ways to balance this base load and increase that base load supply of energy, but beginning to engage our miners and our hyperscalers as we look forward to a nuclear power generation and an SMR utilization.
So we're going to, sort of in conclusion about how we get this done. There's a reason the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve is coming after stablecoins and market structure. And it's because there's too many members of the Congress who don't understand why we need a Bitcoin reserve.
Yes.
That's where you come in.
Yes.
What we've been doing since this bill was filed last September for people to look at and start talking about is to try to find out who understands it and who can help us get it passed. Alaska Representative Begich is going to carry it in the House. We're involved in carrying it in the Senate. But I'm telling you, it's going to be a heavier lift than I thought because so many people don't understand the use case for Bitcoin or the strategic importance of Bitcoin. Help us teach them. Talk to your senator. Write an article. Do a blog. Get on social media. Get where you can help address the issue with them. We know why we need one. We need the United States Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives to know why we need one. And once there's a greater mass of members of Congress who understand it, the president is going to step in and lead this effort.
Well, I just want to thank you all for your leadership on this issue.
And let me just say one thing. Thanks to these beautiful, unbelievably intelligent ladies and everything. God bless you for letting me be a part. Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wow. What an incredible...
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Magazine News Desk presented by Mara. I'm here joined by Marty Bent, Pierre Richard, and Eric Kaysen. We just heard about the Bitcoin Act from Senator Lummis, Senator Justice, and Senator Marsha Blackburn. What we're going to do right now is actually cut over to the Ross Ulbricht exhibit, to the art exhibit that we have here. We also had Ross on the cover of our latest print issue. I personally wrote a fantastic piece in this one with Alexei Navalny's former chief of staff, but it's the freedom issue. So we highlighted the use cases for Bitcoin where it's essential for people who have been cut off from the financial system. And we have to rewind a little bit. When we talk about Ross Ulbricht, he was one of the first people to show people how Bitcoin could be used as money, right? With the Silk Road, people buying and selling goods in a bit of a different way than some of the ways that Bitcoin's being discussed here today on stage. On the way. Eric, I'll go over to you first. What are you looking forward to here? Ross is going to headline this whole thing. He's been in jail for 11 years, part of that time in solitary confinement. Now he's going to be speaking in front of 30,000 people. What's going through your mind?
I mean, first I want to just, honor and respect him for, the man's been through an extraordinary ordeal, and the kind of pressure that's put on him today in an event like this, I just kind of want to give him the space to show up however he needs to or wants to. And furthermore, I hope I get an opportunity to meet him and just really express to him he really made a monumental contribution to the safe use of people choosing what to do and what to put into their bodies and making that accessible through a free market mechanism that really revolutionized and changed sort of the violence that went in to these darker markets. And I think it was a really powerful and incredible effort. And the fact that he's gone through this whole developmental arc of going into prison, being in solitary confinement, and then finally actually, being released and having his record expunged is pretty incredible. So I'm curious to see where he's at, how he's feeling about it, and what his ideas for Bitcoin are into the future.
Yeah, great perspective. Appreciate it. Pierre, what are you thinking about when it comes to Ross at this conference?
I'm thinking about the judge that put him in prison for so long. When she sentenced Ross to a really extraordinarily lengthy sentence, she herself said that she was making an example out of him. And I don't think that's the proper role for the judiciary system. It's not what we should be using prisons for, to make examples out of people. We should be using prisons to keep violent criminals out of society so that they don't do more crime. So I think that he was a political prisoner, and that President Trump, much to his credit, at this conference in Nashville last year, promised to free him and then did exactly that very early in his administration. So I think it goes to show that voting matters. Elections have consequences, and Ross, the injustice that was done to him has now been corrected. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say today.
Appreciate that, Pierre. Marty, I'm going to come back to you. When we come back from the Nakamoto stage, we have to head back over there right now, though. We're about to hear from Faryar Shahzad, Rosie Rios, Chris Lascivita, Brian Jack. We're going to be talking about America at 250 years old, the America 250 celebration, and the next golden age of America, and how Bitcoin will be a part of that. Stick with us. We're heading back to Nakamoto. We'll be right back after this.
Stage. So our next panel is titled The Next Golden Age of America. So please join me. Let's get lots of energy in here. Our moderator is Faryar Shahzad from Coinbase. Let's get a round of applause, everyone. We have Rosie Rios from America 250. We have Chris Lascivita, the President Trump's 2024 campaign, and Brian Jack, U.S. House of Representatives. Enjoy, everyone.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Such a great event, and particularly for those of us who were here at the Bitcoin conference a year ago in Nashville, an extraordinary evolution of what's happened in Bitcoin, crypto, and in the United States in the year since. So we have an amazing panel and a particularly important topic. I think for many of you, you know that we're about to hit the 250th birthday of the United States. And it's a great opportunity to talk about that with this panel, because we have people who are leaders in that effort. And this audience talking about Bitcoin, freedom, crypto is a perfect opportunity to do that. So I want to just kind of get right into it and ask a question of Rosie Rios, who is the former treasurer of the United States. There's over $1 trillion of paper currency out circulating with her signature on it. So she's quite famous and familiar to all of you, even if you may not know it. But so Rosie, tell us, so you're chairing the America 250 effort. What is the America 250 and what are we celebrating?
So thank you so much for that. So America 250 is the Congressional Commission planning the nation's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But who remembers the bicentennial of 1976? All right, great. Good. Excellent. So I remember it like it was yesterday, and this one is going to be bigger and better. There's going to be celebrations that have never, ever, ever been seen on this scale, not just nationally, but globally. We've already hit the ground running. We're already hitting some milestones already with the 250th anniversary of our federal government. So the Army's 250th on June 14th. Be prepared. It's going to be amazing. We start hitting all these other milestones coming up, and this July 4th is the one-year count-up. So if you're going to take away anything from this, remember this. 350 for 250. No one else has ever made that declaration that we're going to engage all 350 million Americans here and abroad. It's going to be spectacular.
Amazing, amazing. So Chris, you're playing a huge role in the America 250 effort. We're at the Bitcoin conference. So what is the connection between Bitcoin, crypto, and America 250?
Well, thanks, and it's a great pleasure to be here, especially in front of so many friends who were instrumental in helping Donald Trump get elected president. And I, for one, and I can say this, that had we not been successful, many of you all, including myself, we would have been looking for a country with a non-extradition treaty. So it's good to be here. You know, really, it's about freedom, right? And what crypto represents on a national scale. And you know, this country was founded in the entrepreneurial spirit of Americans, and we're on the forefront of establishing and formulating, you know, the future of currency, and it's a natural fit that you would have that reach a degree of legitimacy while we're celebrating America's 250th anniversary, and I just can't think of any other better synergy than that.
That's amazing. And Chris was actually hugely instrumental in getting the president to adopt Bitcoin and crypto as one of the platforms of his campaign that ultimately was pivotal in his success. And I think we all saw the energy in the last Bitcoin conference, and then ultimately saw the results in the voting booth. And one of the things we also saw is a new crop of Congress people coming into office, including Congressman Brian Jack, who we have a privilege of having on this panel with us. So Brian, you're in Congress, you're a leader in Congress, you're one of the folks that everyone talks about as the next generation of leaders that we're going to see emerging in the freshman class. So tell us about kind of Bitcoin, America 250, and how you're looking at your role in Congress.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me, and to everyone in the room. Were it not for the support and investment from so many of you in my campaign, were it not for President Trump's endorsement of my campaign, and were it not for the support of my constituents, I would not be here before you. And I think it's instructive and reflective of the approach Bitcoin and the crypto industry has undertaken to engage people running for Congress in early stages, to help brief them, make them aware of the issue set, enables us to be much better legislators, because when we get to Capitol Hill on day one, we're ready and prepared, thanks in large part to all of you. And I'm honored to be on this panel, meeting new friends, but also at the same time, Chris and I share a unique distinction. We were at one of the very first dinners at which President Trump started planning his 2024 campaign, just a handful of us. So it's special. I think Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles are the best presidential campaign managers in history. And I'm not just saying that because he got President Trump to come to the Bitcoin conference last year, but I say that because they ran an incredible campaign around issues that Americans care about. And for us, when we talk about Congress, we talk about what are we doing. This Congress, we've only had 119 iterations of Congress since our 250-year beginning. And I say that because this Congress is that first Congress in my mind that can really effectuate the change you are looking for, create that stable framework that enables regulatory environment to have an opportunity for you to have innovation and entrepreneurship. But beyond that, I think this Congress has an opportunity to codify so much of what President Trump has already done with administrative action. We hear that a lot from our constituents. I think we hear that from many of you too in the audience, people that supported me. You want to see all the great things President Trump has done with executive action codified into law. I look forward to pursuing that and talking a little bit more about that on this panel.
No, that's great, Brian. Well, let's actually ask you about that. You're on some key committees in Congress. You had a very impressive set of committees that you were assigned to. What tangibly have you been able to kind of get done in your short time in office?
Well, first and foremost, so I mean, our overarching theme for the last few months in Congress has been to pass President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. We did that last week. Took a lot of effort, but we got it done. So thank you to everyone who helped support that. But another thing that we've done that I'm really proud of, and it does impact some of y'all in this room, is we've really started to roll back the regulatory regime that Joe Biden thrust upon all of us. And I say that because you mentioned the committees on which I serve. So you're going to hear from a few of my colleagues. You just heard from an incredible panel of senators that are incredibly powerful and are working on these issues every day. You're going to hear from some of my colleagues later in this Congress or the conference that serve on the Financial Services Committee. I serve on the House Rules Committee, and it has a very unique intersection with everything we care about. The Rules Committee was the first committee ever formed by Congress. It was constituted the second day of the first Congress. It's the same committee through which James Madison moved the Bill of Rights, and it's the last stop for any legislation before it hits the floor. And I say that because earlier this year, we started using a congressional tool called the Congressional Review Act that enables us to repeal any regulation Joe Biden's administration put on any sector during those last few months in office. And one of the first laws that Donald Trump signed into law was the repeal of a very niche but interesting issue for some folks in the room. It was a policy that the CFPB thrust upon the industry in December that really helped them regulate, if you will, or over-regulate payment processors. So a lot of the payment processors that process Bitcoin, process crypto, they were going to be under these incredible burdens by CFPB. We used the Congressional Review Act through the Rules Committee to repeal this regulation, and that's just the first step. But when it comes back to what you were sharing, I think the most important thing that we can do is codify what President Trump has already put into writing and create that framework, create that regulatory environment that enables our market structure to grow, enables innovation to thrive, entrepreneurship to thrive. And you have invested and helped elect so many of my colleagues that are going to be so motivated to get out there and lead on this issue because they're now hearing from their constituents for the first or second time, depending on which Congress you talk about this specific issue set. So I think the activism from people in the room, if there's one takeaway from my speech today, so to speak, it's the activism really helps create an environment in which legislation that can help this industry grow survives. Thank you.
No, it's been amazing what you've been able to do, Brian, and your colleagues in Congress. So before I go back to you, Rosie, I want to make a big announcement, which I'm super proud to make on behalf of Coinbase. We have just become a major sponsor of the America 250 effort. We'll be announcing the details of it fairly soon. But for a company whose mission is economic freedom, we're really proud to be a part of this important celebration.
Thank you.
So Rosie, you were treasurer for 8 years. You were in charge of managing how we produce currency and issue it. And so for a lot of people, when they think about Bitcoin or they think about crypto, they're kind of unnerved that because it reflects a change in how we think about currency. But you, better than anyone, can help us understand why currency changes and how we transact value is a constantly evolving thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, so first of all, I think for us, I actually led the Future of Money initiative starting in 2012. And back then, the fear was Google Wallet was going to take everything over and everything's going to have to shut down, no more currency, no more coins. And I think what people have to realize is that consumer behavior is very, very hard to change unless there's a shock to the system. Well, the pandemic really provided that shock to the system in terms of what needs to change. And I think, what I've been so amazed with is the momentum for that level of change, this awareness and action that has happened in this administration. I mean, it's amazing what 4 months make in terms of giving that green light for innovation to actually happen. You're going to hear me say a lot, the train has left the station. So, thank you. Bitcoin is here to stay. Blockchain is here to stay. And the unfortunate part about government traditionally, it doesn't lead, it follows. And a lot of it is because you don't have a lot of the kind of the subject matter experts who are literally coming into government. And so that's why the fact that this administration has taken the lead to form these task forces, to actually bring business and the expertise into those conversations, we're literally playing catch up from the last 10 years where things didn't happen. Now things are happening. And the fact that there's now this momentum, that clarity is going to happen now for the very first time, that's going to allow this innovation to take place. I mean, the job that we need to do as government officials is stay out of the way. How do we provide those wings? How do we literally provide the ability for those guardrails and for the regulatory framework that's going to be needed for folks to do their job? And so I think, but it's going to take time. I mean, we have the credit card systems in place. That's not going to go away anytime soon. There's going to be obviously a lot of stakeholders involved, not just, card holders and financial institutions, but consumers in general. So, this transition period is going to be important. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's the same for fiat. I mean, we need fiat, believe it or not. This is why we have stable coins. $1 is always going to be worth $1. The US dollar is still the world's reserve currency. That's not going to go away anytime soon either. But the fact that there is now so much more support, and that goes, by the way, for the administration on the 250th. I mean, on President Trump's 10th day in office, he issued the executive order forming Task Force 250 to hit the ground running. I've been on this commission now for 7 years, but in the last 4 months, we've gotten more stuff done than the previous 7 years combined. And Chris has been part of that team, by the way. That's the green light we all need to move forward.
So Rosie, you alluded to this, but just to say it out loud, I think it would surprise people to know that you were the treasurer for 8 years under President Obama. I think for a lot of us in our community, we sort of think it's become a partisan issue. Democrats on one side against Bitcoin and crypto, and Republicans in favor of. But there's so many smart Democrats like you who are on the front end of this. Can you talk about that? I mean,
look, I'm a fiscal conservative. I always have been. I've been a disciple of blockchain in general for years. And so, I feel like the rest of the world is just catching up to this. So I don't think it's a DNR issue. And by the way, we are by law mandated to be bipartisan for the 250th, by law. So, I mean, look, I come from a family of 9 kids. 4 of us are Democrats, 4 of us are Republicans, and I'm the only one that's kind of a fiscal conservative in the middle, but with moderate views. And I think if we learned anything from this last election, Those borders, boxes, and boundaries don't exist anymore. I mean, look what Trump is doing for the next generation of voters, right? People didn't see that coming, where people thought millennials and post-millennials were going to be traditional kind of progressives. That's actually not the case. I mean, I know Chris can cite this better than I can, but I mean, the percentages of Trump's support for the 18 to 29 age category was phenomenal. And, you know, if you want to see the future, go talk to a millennial or post-millennial. That is absolutely the future.
So Chris, when you were co-manager of the Trump campaign, and you were there, obviously, for every big decision they made, a lot of those decisions that the campaign made under your leadership were counterintuitive or seemed counterintuitive, and then in hindsight were prescient and strokes of genius. One of the big ones was to adopt Bitcoin and crypto as a big platform for the campaign, which everyone didn't understand at the time. But can you kind of talk about the evolution of the president's thinking on the issue and how you looked at it as an electoral opportunity?
Well, thanks. And you know, it's about knowing who your base is and who you need to attract and who you need to bring in. And clearly on the Trump campaign, you know, we made, you know, massive moves with Hispanics, with African American men, with suburban women, with younger voters. And it's really is, you know, Bitcoin and the whole crypto movement really was a part of that, because it's such a wide swath of voters. It's not just, you know, one segment of the population. So it actually fit, you know, from a political perspective. Plus, I mean, there's no better definition in the 21st century for entrepreneurship and freedom and liberty than what you all represent. And so it fit, you know, it fit perfectly. And of course, the president, he speaks to literally, and Brian can tell you, hundreds of people every week from all walks of life. And he really, you know, takes in, you know, their advice and their counsel. And you know, that's how he comes to the information in order to make decisions. Obviously, we had a lot of great friends, you know, with David Bailey, one of the first people that we met with. And I remember the meeting in New York and with the president, and, you know, really getting an understanding of what it represents and how to make, you know, the use of it. But really, it's a welcoming, you know, I think with a lot of the legislation that's moving now, you see that you actually have a friend. You actually have a partner that will help grow, that provides that degree of legitimacy, that provides the clarity for the market. You know, these are things that they're obviously very important for any industry, but you know, taken in a political context, it just was one of those things that matched up perfectly with what the president's vision was, and of course you guys were a big part of that and very supportive on so many different levels. But knowing that you have a friend in the White House, knowing that you have, you know, I know Bo Hines will be here a little later today, our true friend who's moving a lot of this stuff for the industry, and again, it's just it's a great partnership. And why shouldn't America be the leader? Why shouldn't we be? We always have been. And so now we have a president who recognizes that, wants to make that a reality, and you guys are very, very much a part of making it happen.
As a professional mechanic, your tools are essential for your living. Icon Tools complete every repair without giving an inch. Go with Icon Tools. Tool truck quality, unbeatable value, only at Harbor Freight.
Advocates around the country. And for those of you who haven't signed up, I would encourage you to go to standwithcrypto.org and sign up and be heard. But as a member of Congress, there's still a lot of your colleagues who are sort of not with the program and are voting against crypto just reflexively. How important is it for everybody here to make their voice heard, talk to their member of Congress, stand up with sign up to grassroots organizations, and talk to people like your colleagues so that they understand why this is an important issue?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say as it relates to Stand With Crypto, I can't speak more highly enough about the team that is within Stand With Crypto. Nick Carr has been fantastic for me, everyone at Coinbase, obviously from Brian all the way down, Kara, Paul. But I say that because, I mean, really, which, as I alluded to before, I mean, every member of Congress has hundreds of issues thrown their way every single day. But I think what Stand With Crypto did such a good job, first off, you chase votes. I mean, I got the text message, granted I'm Georgia, so I'm in a swing state, but I probably got 30 or 40 elements of outreach, whether it be text, email, phone call, all through Stand With Crypto, that reminded me just how many people within my district care about these issues. And really, I think what you have with Congress right now, we passed the one big beautiful bill in the House. We'll see what happens with the Senate. Hopefully we're able to, fulfill the president's goal of having this signed into law by Independence Day, but that gives us another 75% of this Congress in which we're going to want to make history, and making history with respect to creating, stablecoin legislation, creating the framework that we all need to enable the entrepreneurial spirit Chris alluded to thrive. That's something we can accomplish this Congress, but motivating members of Congress always comes from the ground up. It comes from the grassroots, and you have 2.3 million, but it's probably much more if you think about people that want to see America continue to lead the world in every element of society, every element of business and industry. This is where we're looking to do so. But I'll also just note, as it relates to a role that you mentioned earlier, I'm also the deputy chairman of the NRCC. So I'm the number 2 guy responsible for retaining the House majority for Republicans. And one of the things we need to be able to sell victories and wins back home in 2026 in order to continue this Republican majority, to continue to enact President Trump's agenda. And by having the partnership you have in the White House, any politician's priority is where he or she spends their time. Look how many people from the administration are here before you. Look how many people who are instrumental in Congress. You've got our great majority whip, Tom Emmer. You've got Brian Stile, who chairs the subcommittee of jurisdiction through which all legislation will flow. You've got Byron Donalds, who is going to go on to probably bigger and better things. So you've got really good representation. You have the senators here that just talked about the Bitcoin Act. So you've got a lot of people here that are going to help play a leading role in this space, but it's really incumbent upon everybody in this room and everybody that's watching. You got to reach out to your members of Congress, make sure they feel that support back home. 2.4 million, in my mind, is reflective of a movement that's only going to continue to grow as long as you continue to engage. So thank you.
Rose.
I want to follow up with that. This could very well be one of the most consequential Congress bodies we've ever had in our history. The engagement has been incredible. In fact, we have formed the largest congressional caucus right now. We're 297 members of our America 250 Congressional Caucus. We're actually on track to be the largest congressional caucus in the history of our country. And it's almost split equitably between Democrats and Republicans. People want this to happen. And I want to go on one other point that you mentioned, Congressman, which is the global nature of what we're talking about. This isn't just about the U.S. This is about celebrating being the oldest democracy in the world and what that represents moving forward. So, think about what's happening in 2026, by the way. It's also the World Cup, right? Mostly in the U.S. And 2 short years later is the LA Olympics. You're going to have billions of people watching the U.S. in 2 very short years. And so the eyes of the world are watching. We are setting the tone for what happens, not just in our history, but for the future. And for all of us, again, this is about the American dream. This is about, again, the values in which our country was founded, was those liberties that Chris mentioned, but the pursuit of the American dream. When people ask me all the time, how do you know you're going to be successful in 2026? And my answer is the same. I want as many Americans as possible to feel like this is the land of opportunity all over again. And for Bitcoin and blockchain in general, whoever creates that dominant digital infrastructure will set the tone for the whole global financial system, and it starts here, literally at this conference, with this leadership, with this president moving forward.
I'm going to come back to you, Rosie, to finish us off. But just quickly, Chris, you're already advising a number of candidates in the next cycle. Is Bitcoin and crypto coming up as a campaign issue and a campaign opportunity for them?
Well, for the people that I work for, yes. Because we've made in just a very short period of time so much progress, and we've moved fast. You know, President Trump's in a hurry. And, you know, the first 100 days was marked by a level of activity I don't think people have seen coming out of Washington in an awful long time. And the next 100 days, of course, we're, you know, a third way into that already. And we want to hold and we want to build on the gains that we've made. And we can't literally go back. And, you know, by codifying a lot of the things that we want to accomplish, we can't do it unless we have the help in the House and in the Senate. And of course, most of my time is spent advising the president's outside political operation, and obviously the entire goal there is increasing the House and increasing the Senate. Because if we lose the House, you know, I can't tell you what the next 2 years are going to look like. So our focus has got to be really on moving the ball forward and building on those gains. It's the single most important thing that we can do. And everyone in this room, everyone out in the hallway, everyone here has a key role to play. Midterm elections, you know, midterm elections don't generate the level of activity or turnout than, say, a presidential race does. But we know our people are out there. And so it's incumbent on all of us to ensure that they show up. And so we'll stand with crypto and, you know, all of the support that we now have, this very energized and activated customer base really will set the tone, and it'll put us where we need to be, which is at the forefront. And because, again, as I said earlier, why shouldn't America be leading the way on this, especially in the 250th anniversary of our great country? So, but again, it's shaping up to be, I would say, probably one of the top 5 issues that we'll be debating in the midterms. And the great thing about that is we also have an educational aspect to the message. Because there's a lot of people out there who don't understand. And so we need to take advantage of that opportunity, educate the voters, because it's a very simple message to sell, and one that the vast majority, overwhelming numbers of Americans would agree with.
Amazing. So just one thing. At Coinbase, we've committed to take Stand With Crypto up to 4 million advocates by the time of the 26th election. Rosa, we only have a couple of seconds left. How can people find out more about the Sequincentennial?
There's something for everyone on our website, america250.org. We're going to have student competitions. We're going to have the ability to nominate whose story you think should be preserved in perpetuity at the Library of Congress. We have many more anniversaries coming up. Post Office in July. We have the Navy in October. We have the Marines in November. So many things to look forward to, and big, fabulous moments. We will share very, very soon, maybe even on July 4th, those amazing moments that are yet to come. But I want to just end by saying, look, it is a public-private partnership across the board. You have representation here that I think, you know, these are leaders. These aren't folks who are just kind of talking. They're actually walking the walk together. We're doing all of this together. So much more to look forward to. And again, thank you to all of you for what you have done to put this president in office, but more importantly, what we can do to inspire the next generation of leadership for the future.
Amazing. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All 21 million of them would fit inside a single shipping container. But to fit the dollars the Fed prints on average every day, you'd need 72 shipping containers. Each year, you'd need 26,280 containers.
What is up, guys? Welcome, Crypto FUD. All right, so we just basically saw, right now, I think it's going to be going into a pause, intermission for the Bitcoin conference that's going on right now in Las Vegas. If they do come back, we might resume, but as of now, I think the conference might be over for the day. I don't know for a fact as of now, so what we'll do is I'll give it a few seconds here. If it doesn't start back up, we'll basically end the stream, and we'll be back a little later on. But definitely big things going on. We've had Senator Loomis, to be exact, that was just on here talking about the Bitcoin reserve. So, I mean, big things going on in the back end. Obviously, we've been covering this on the channel. Nothing really going on as far as with the charts, with the conference, which this happens every year, right? There's never really a big mover in the conference other than, I think last year they had Trump on there. That was pretty much the only thing that was really kind of moving the markets. One thing I wanted to point out today is the Ethereum chart. If this thing will ever freaking pop up, there it is. The Ethereum chart is actually, Ethereum's killing it right now. Ethereum right now is doing very well compared to Bitcoin today. Ethereum's up 5%, Bitcoin's up about 0.77%. So, I mean, doing really well. If we actually look real quick at Bitcoin's dominance, you can see, I believe, yeah, dominance has been coming down as of the last few hours. We've been seeing kind of a top for dominance, and we've been coming down, and we say this all the time, right? When you're seeing Ethereum coming up, usually price-wise, you're going to see dominance starting to come down because you're seeing some of the funds coming from Bitcoin, or maybe they're not going straight to Bitcoin as they're coming into the market. They're maybe just going into Ethereum and a lot of altcoins as well. So we've been saying this for the last week that I told you guys. I anticipate that that big altcoin season is amongst us. Very, very soon, I think we're going to start seeing alts start breaking out of nowhere, and I mean going parabolic. So hopefully, you know, we'll see this coming up soon. Bitcoin's been really taking the limelight, which is perfectly fine, but I do see alts most likely going to be coming through and start taking over. So we'll see how that plays out. Looks like the conference is going to continue for now, so we'll see how it plays out. But I am here in the background. If you need anything from me, hit me up in the chat. All right, guys, make sure you guys slap that like as well. I appreciate that. All right, I'll let them talk. Thank you.
Here of all of these different assets to maximize your upside and minimize your downside. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. So I know that you're focusing on MSTR. Timothy, over to you. You're looking at different companies that are holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. What other companies should we be paying attention to right now?
Well, I think the obvious name might be GameStop. Might also be the U.S. government. So yeah, I think there'll be some exciting announcements from what we're hearing on the ground here. And it's been really exciting to work with Jeff and Ben and everybody at True North, and also really put a spotlight on the executives and the analysts with the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast of like just what's going on here, and to hear their story and try to just dig a little bit deeper. I think it'll be interesting to see how many Bitcoin treasury companies, not just Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but really using those capital markets and the leverage intelligently to go about that strategy in different capital markets and different industries as far as their operating business is concerned. And it'll be really interesting. Some of the conversations that I'm having is, hey, we're good on the capital side, or we're comfortable on the capital side, but what about the media side? What about people actually knowing, well, this is the 5th company or the 12th company? How are you going to differentiate from people kind of leaning into what is your story? What is your conviction on Bitcoin? Right, because you can talk about your company till you're blue in the face, but the Bitcoin aspect and really that storytelling that Michael Saylor has done so fabulously for 5 years, I think there's a lot of opportunity.
I think that's a great point. I recently spoke with Eric Semler of Semler Scientific, which I think was the second publicly traded company they followed in MicroStrategy's footsteps to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And he said, yeah, I learned how important messaging was. I had to come to these conferences, tell people what I was doing, get them excited about what I was doing, let them explain it so that they felt more secure about what I was doing. Pierre, over to you. When are we going to get to a point where holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet is just the norm? You know, how far out are we from just these not being super exciting stories? Another company puts Bitcoin on the balance sheet and it just becomes a prudent thing to do for a company.
I think that it's going to take some generational change. When we look at companies that have gotten very close to adopting a Bitcoin treasury standard, sometimes the blocker is just one veto on the board of directors. And so it's really challenging for companies that have developed a track record where they have enough success to not need Bitcoin. Saylor puts it, Bitcoin's on a need-to-know basis. And so that creates a huge hurdle for this trend to spread to other adjacent companies in different industries. On the other hand, when we look at the amount of disruption that's coming in from AI and from regulatory policy, whether it's tariffs or other things, clearly there's a lot of pressure on management teams and boards to find ways to get capital markets to open up and to have access and to be able to compete with these magnificent seven that are sometimes quasi-monopolies. And so there is a bit of a trap, but it's going to take a lot of education in order to overcome those overly risk-averse board members who don't understand Bitcoin yet. So that's why I'm excited about the Bitcoin for Corporations podcast, and of course the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast as well. So we just need as much content out there as possible to get the messaging through.
Yeah, just as a quick final thought, if you don't mind, Jeff, back to you. Just when it comes to education, how important is that? Really breaking down some of this terminology that might be new to new investors, to new Bitcoiners. How much of a focus do you put on that?
Yeah, a ton of focus, right? Because what the world is trying to reconceptualize here is risk. Right, you're comparing the old world to the new world, right? And you're seeing all these new products that have.
Jeff, if you don't mind, I just got word from the Nakamoto stage. We do have to cut back over there. I apologize. We're going to be right back with Jeff, though. We appreciate the insights, and I appreciate that emphasis on yet before Pierre as well. But we're heading back over. We're going to commercial break. We're back to the Nakamoto stage, and then we're back here on the live desk. Stick with us here at Bitcoin 2025.
The people that I hurt. That was not part of the conversation. It was punish and send a message. Going to jail for a very few hours was a defining moment in my life. I felt hopeless. But inside the walls where I lost all my agency, almost all my hope, and my freedoms, I met others. I met plebs. I met underdogs, nonviolent drug offenders, and dozens of people who had no hope of getting out. I'm incredibly blessed. I had a fucking badass criminal defense attorney who showed up and ensured that I pled down. The felonies didn't stick. Not everybody has that option. Today, there are problems. Our institutions cannot respond fast enough in the age of abundance with the speed of AI and the changes that need to occur. America was founded on a set of principles that believe that people can self-organize and unite with anyone to do right. When the degenerates left Europe and started to think about this thing called America, the Europeans, the elites, they were glad to see them go. Like, hell yeah, these are the worst people ever. Like, look at these degens. If ship posting was a thing, the founders of America would have been the best at it. I think that's funny. Thank you. Come on, we got to liven up. Come on, that's what I'm talking about. All right. So where are we at today? Well, I told you a little bit about my journey, but it didn't stop there. I got out of jail, and I had a deep, unsettling thought. So I started reading books. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to talk to people. And I picked up a book called Liberty Defined by Ron Paul. All of a sudden, I saw hope. I saw a system. I saw philosophy. I saw letting go of tribalism in pursuit of getting things right. And reading Dr. Paul's book set me on a path. I didn't know how, but at first I wanted everybody inside of the jails who didn't deserve to be there to get out. So what do? Have you ever tried to get someone out of jail? It's incredibly difficult. So my wife and I threw a fundraiser for a startup philanthropic organization. where I invited all my friends, my Bitcoin friends. They were 1/3 the party. Parker Lewis and I stayed up till 2 a.m. He orange-pilled me that night, where I let go of my shitcoinery. But most importantly, we threw a fundraiser for a woman named Alice Marie Johnson, just a little one, just to get things started. I said that night it would take 10 years, but maybe if we work together, we can get Alice and many people like her out of jail. I'm proud to report that 2 years later, because of President Donald Trump, he pardoned Alice and she walked free. Played a super small role. Well, what does that mean? It means anybody can participate in this system to do right. So not only did Alice walk free, but as most of you know, Ross Ulbricht walks free and hugs his mother because Bitcoiners showed up and were the change that we wanted to see. Few prouder moments than watching Ross and just knowing that he was able to embrace his family. He made mistakes. I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. There's a lot of problems in the world. Everybody here wants something. You need something. You're here. Maybe it's because you see something bigger than yourself. I know I do. So in addition to the criminal justice reform work that we started just showing up and taking action, we started mining Bitcoin. I had an intern. I'm proud to report I believe he was the first Doge intern, Department of Grid Efficiency, back in 2017. Finished all the work I gave him, started mining crypto in 2017, and all of a sudden we saw a price signal. If we can innovate in energy markets, we can create value for grid stakeholders. We pioneered something called HODL Ranch. We built the world's first Bitcoin-only energy infrastructure project, and we just made that shit up. I was very blessed to participate in the shale revolution, where a bunch of my homies, my landmen, and others, we just got together. We looked for markets, we built liquidity. What HODL Ranch did, me and a few other underdogs, is we saw a market need. Now, of course, the Germans, they thought they had us beat in this competition. They teamed up with Iceland. And as I stated at Consensus 2018, Texas is going to dominate the future of Bitcoin mining. And that obviously is true today. But the game's just getting warmed up. The grid, America, we need a lot more power. A lot more. And right now, I don't see a lot of good options. Everyone's complaining. But a ragtag bunch of us in Texas, we learned you can write laws. We learned we're operating in a rules-based system called the civic process of America. What the founders laid out was a beautiful system where anyone have a voice. I just wrapped up, and we're about to wrap up the Texas legislative session where we had a grid bill, we had the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, which Texas got passed. Oh, no, well, we're almost there. So Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he got the Senate, he teamed up with anyone, got them in line. Speaker Burrows, he united with anyone to do right. Other plebs and other individuals have come together and are about to send the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve to Governor Abbott's desk. This is monumental. David Bailey, the entire Bitcoin ecosystem, laid out a vision, said we need strategic Bitcoin reserves. I wasn't even that involved. I just said, oh my God, my homies are showing up to Texas, let's get after it. So organizations like the Texas Blockchain Council, they united with people and they got the strategic Bitcoin reserve on the way to the governor's desk. But there are more problems. Right now, the grid, we have a lot more power. So how do we solve that? I literally learned you can write laws. Anyone in this room can write a law. You can show up to your political member's office. You can unite with them. You can educate them. There are ERCOT protocols. There are PUC rules. Every single person in here is affected by the reliability and innovation on their grids. And every single Bitcoiner can show up and be the change that we want to see in the world. So my call to action today is, I've done a lot of crazy stuff. And there's a small group of us in Texas that are just getting warmed up. But to ensure that America's upcoming 250th relaunch is successful, we need a lot more people showing up. And every single individual can participate in this new system. We're starting with Texas. In fact, we stood up a new trade association called the Texas Bitcoin and Grid Alliance. Me and some homies on email, Telegram, we literally got together and started it the night before my last testimony in front of the Texas legislature. And I was able to tell the State Affairs Committee that a ragtag group of Texas Bitcoin miners are showing up and we're just getting warmed up. And we just made that up. So you got a lot of options. Bitcoiners have empirically proved that we're here for finance. We're voluntarily changing the financial system, Wall Street, global public equity markets. That momentum is there and it is just getting warmed up. But will Bitcoin's greatest role be in advancing energy abundance or remaking capital markets? I don't know. That's up to you. Where do you want to get involved? Every single person. We have digitized money. We have torn down all rent-seeking initiatives from a legacy system. Before us today, we have the options to change, to embrace the principles that made America great. We have an opportunity. Everyone in this room has an opportunity to be the change. So what do you do with that? What are you going to do? It's up to you. I think a lot about what we're doing, the problems in the world, my kids. What do I want their future to look like? What did my granddad go through, whose dad died in 6th grade? He didn't have anybody there. Ended up founding a business in the oil business that set me and my family up for greater prosperity. I never got to meet my granddad, but I think about him often. My dad was a great man. In fact, he's passed away, but he was the first obituary in the world to unite the oil and gas community and the Bitcoin tribe. In his obituary, my brother literally wrote it talking about how when we first started, few people believed in us, but my dad believed in us. And so today, fellow American Bitcoiners, don't ask what Bitcoin can do for you. Ask what you can do for Bitcoin. To the liberty lovers across America and across the world, don't beg for sats. Don't ask America for sats. We don't want to send you sats. We want you to come here. Come to America. Come to Texas. Bring your ideas. Let's build the energy abundant world that America so desperately needs for all. Whether you're a Bitcoiner, still shitcoining, or a recovering fiat bro, ask of us, ask of the Bitcoiners what we ask of ourselves. Integrity, courage, an extremely strong bias for action, and a commitment to first principles. Number go up's the signal, but it's not salvation. History is the final timestamp. Let's build the voluntary parallel systems and for the new American institutions, rooted in freedom, subsidiary, and pleb leadership. History is being written. You are writing it. We do not wait, we trust, we verify, we build. Stack sats like your freedom depends on it. Spend sats on Bitcoin businesses. Speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Build what fiat won't. The network is strong. The Texas Bitcoiners, our mission is clear. Every single human on earth, deserves reliable, extremely abundant, cheap power. To bring that to reality, every single person needs to ask themselves, what change do you want to see in the world? And how do you be the change to create the world that we want to live in? Thank you for your time, and I encourage you to go out and build and unite with anyone to do right.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Magazine News Desk presented by Mara. I'm Frank Corva. I'm joined by Jeff Walton, Pierre Richard, and Timothy Kotzman. Jeff, we had to cut over to the Nakamoto stage and we cut you short. You were telling us the importance of education when it comes to investing in companies like MicroStrategy. Please continue with that thought you had before.
Yeah, education is incredibly important here because the world is reframing and rethinking how they see risk, right? They're seeing risks of the physical world and these other assets that they may own, whether it be real estate or bonds or equities in other places, and they look at, what is the risk-return trade-off of all these other things, and comparing it to the risk-return trade-off of, holding a digital asset. And, what is the risk? And we talk about the evolution of these products and thinking about Bitcoin as your hurdle rate, right? So always stacking Bitcoin, and how does that influence the decision making you have today?
Yeah, appreciate that. You talked a little bit earlier, Timothy, about messaging, right? Messaging can be tough. You sort of have to find something that emotionally resonates with people. You have to get their attention, but then you have to sort of get that message home. What are some strategies that work when it comes to your messaging and letting people know the importance about the details with these Bitcoin treasury companies?
Yeah, I think we're so early that, unless you're on CNBC and you're a sailor, or you're on all the podcasts like Sailor, I think we're just really early. Like, I think it's yet to be seen, like, high quality 2, 5, 10-minute, 3-hour Lex Friedman type, like all of that for these CEOs and companies to tell their stories. I think that's where this is going. And I'm often reminded of when Eric Semler was at MIT. Jeff was interviewing him, and he said, look, I'm an introvert. I'm not really, I got to make a presentation. I got to do all this media, and he's leaning into it. But for me individually, personally, that was, I'm like, oh, that's very endearing. That's authentic. It makes me like Eric Semler more. So I think if you could just, whether people come to New York or Las Vegas, or you helicopter yourself into London and you spend a day or two with these guys and just really get that content and get it, as Sailor said in Orlando, get it out in the 2 minutes or the 2 hours that people want. I think that's going to be really powerful, and I think that's what we're going to see.
Great perspective. Appreciate that. Pierre, you're doing some real important work with the Bitcoin for Corporations show. 2 episodes out there in the wild. What's coming next? What can people expect from this show? What sorts of educational efforts will you be sort of putting front and center?
So I think every Bitcoin treasury company has its own story, both in terms of how they got into Bitcoin, but also in terms of what they want to do with it. And whether it's innovating on the capital structure side of issuing securities that have different trade-offs, of some of them want to take on less risk because Bitcoin's too volatile. Others, so that would be like STRF or STRK. Others want to go leverage long Bitcoin, and they might even be thinking about the derivatives around that. And so that's on the liabilities and equity side for these treasury companies. On the asset side, there's also going to be new different strategies. So Sailor has really emphasized just put it in cold storage, don't even reveal the addresses, and keep it passive, right? Others might try to be more active in their management of the Bitcoin treasury. That's going to come with risks. It's going to come with opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to explore those. And then also understanding how does the operating business feed into the Bitcoin treasury strategy, and what are the trade-offs between having a lot of free cash flow in a successful business versus really being desperate and hungry and laser focused on Bitcoin.
Appreciate that perspective, Pierre. We are headed back to the Nakamoto stage again here at Bitcoin 2025. Nakamoto stage is next. We'll be right back here at the live desk. After that, stick with us.
So my case with you guys is that the last halving of Bitcoin is 2140, is that not? Wouldn't it be cool if we were all around for that? My message to you is that we may be the first generation who won't die. That has been a ridiculous statement from when time began, and this is the first time that has ever been possible. You can see my slides? No? Yes? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Okay, so what I've been doing for the past couple of years is I've been trying to take a qualitative idea of health and make it into a global competitive sport. Give something numbers, status, and ranking, and humans love to play that game. I've tried to be the world's first rejuvenation athlete. So you see here, I've posted, I have the world's best comprehensive biomarkers. I've posted 60 of the most predictive markers for longevity. And I do so in a way to invite others to try to replicate and beat my scores. But it's also a point to try to say, you can, in fact, quantify health. That we are transitioning from a moment of storytelling to a quantified framework. So one thing I've learned is that a unit of measurement is really helpful in longevity. Over the past couple of years, I've been measuring my speed of aging. So inside of each one of you is a clock that tells you how fast or how slow you're aging. If you're aging at a 1, that means 1 year of time passes, and you have 1 year of what you age 1 year. If you are 1.2, you're aging faster than time is passing, and if you're less than, you're slower than time is passing. So, consistent with trying to make this a global sport, I created the Rejuvenation Olympics, where people all around the world are competing to see who has the lowest speed of aging score. I'm currently #1 in the world, 0.54 for my best 3 test score. This means that for every year that passes, I age roughly 6 months. So you can, in fact, meaningfully slow down your speed of aging through various things I'm going to talk to you about today. So you probably hear a lot of things about health. It probably seems all very confusing, and people disagree with everyone about everything. So what do you do? I'm going to help you understand there's one marker in particular that will help you achieve the majority of the health benefits, lowering your resting heart rate before bed, okay? So we're going to spend about 5 minutes on this. Everyone put your phones down, and let's focus on this, yeah? Okay. So my credentials in doing this is I scored 8 months of perfect sleep, okay? 100% sleep score for 8 months. I wanted to demonstrate you can, in fact, master the practice of sleep. And in doing this, I realized in all my health practices that the most important marker determining whether or not I was going to have restful sleep was my resting heart rate before bed. So tonight, when you go to bed, lay down on your pillow, take a few deep breaths. If you have a wearable, pull it up and see your heart rate in real time. If not, just take your pulse for 6 seconds and then multiply that by 10. Let's say your resting heart rate is 60 beats per minute at your baseline. Your goal over the next month is to lower your resting heart rate by 10% to 54, okay? And the way you're going to do this is these things right here. So one of the biggest things that I've seen is the timing of my final meal of the day is perhaps the greatest influencer of my resting heart rate. So my final meal of the day now is around noon. I go to bed at 8:30. You don't need to do that if you simply start with 4 hours before your bedtime. So if your bedtime is 10 p.m., finish eating your final meal of the day by 6 p.m. No snacks and no food after that. You'll notice that when you do that, your resting heart rate goes down because your body is almost finished digesting food, and it leaves metabolic capacity for your body to then sleep. You see here in these other things, alcohol, for example, increases your resting heart rate. Anxiety and stress and rumination, that's the biggest one. Okay, so if you master first, don't eat right before bed, 4 hours before. You want a wind down routine. So if you say again, your bedtime is 10 p.m., when 9 p.m. arrives, screens off, and you're in a wind down mode, calming your body and mind from the day's stress. So you know this from experience. When that moment of the day comes, you're stressed, you're tired, you're mad, you're anxious, you have all kinds of ambitious thoughts. That rumination will drive your heart rate up, which will lessen your sleep quality. Now, the reason why these things are so important is because when the resting heart rate is up, your sleep quality goes down. And when your sleep quality goes down, your mood goes down. Your want of bad foods goes up. So sleep triggers this cascade where you're not going to exercise, you're going to eat bad foods, you're going to put on weight, you're going to have mood imbalances. Sleep is the #1 best performance-enhancing drug in the world. Resting heart rate is the best predictor of your sleep quality. So to summarize health in one statement, if you lower your resting heart rate before bed, you will achieve the majority of the health benefits through all the other things you could do in life. Because it leads to high quality sleep, which then leads to more positive behavior. So I would encourage you, make that your single practice. It's also your accountability partner. So if before bed, you are looking at that pint of ice cream, or the bag of chips, or the candy, you realize that's going to drive up your heart rate and you're not going to do it. Okay, these are the things I would suggest. It is very counterintuitive in our culture today. I would suggest each one of you build your life around sleep. Okay? Again, this is what I've learned over 5 years of doing this, of having the best biomarkers of anybody in the world. Building your life around sleep is the best thing you can do to make more money in Bitcoin. You guys believe that? You will make more money in Bitcoin if you get sleep. And I know you don't believe, many of you don't believe that. You will. You will make better decisions. Your mood will be more stable. You will make better judgments. Okay? My nighttime erections are the length of the Titanic, the movie. Now, why would I share something like that? Because when I talk about sleep, the majority of you are like, yeah, whatever. Did you know if you don't get high quality sleep, you don't get nighttime boners? This is true for men and women. Did you know that nighttime erections, men and women, is one of the most important biomarkers for your health? It is psychological, cardiovascular, and your fitness. So as you age, this is again true for men and women, nighttime erections go down. It is a function of aging damage. So when I first started talking about this important marker, I had several friends, many of which are in Web3, were saying, Brian, I have no nighttime erections. And I said, how is your sleep? You know, I get 4 to 5 hours a night. That's what happens. When you don't get sleep, your body shuts down critical functions, including your sexual function. It also eliminates, you have NK cells in your body. These are cells that go out and survey for cancer. When you don't get high quality sleep, your body lowers searching for cancer by 73%. Your body stops looking for cancer. Okay? Also, when you get 4 hours of sleep at night, there's a response in your brain of an inflammatory protein that is equal to a traumatic brain injury. So I want to impress upon you that sleep is not just a productive thing that helps you make better decisions and have a stable mood. It also, if you don't get it, your body literally shuts down really important functions. So here, I'm just going to give you guys this. Pull out your phones, grab this QR code. This is what I eat on an ongoing basis. So the thing that distinguishes my endeavor is we have combed through the scientific evidence. We've used a philosophy to say every calorie has to fight for its life. Every single molecule that gets in my body. And we've said, what are the superfoods among superfoods? This is a great representation. So as you try to, so number 1 is lower your resting heart rate. 2 is have good nutrition and eat from this guide. This is probably the most evidence-based guide out there. Finally, I think we all know this, the most consequential thing happening in the world right now, of course, outside of Bitcoin, that's obvious. Second to Bitcoin is AI. AI is progressing at a speed that is unfathomable to our current minds. It is changing things beyond our ability to understand. As it does this, I want to put forward to you that as a species, we're going to be playing a new game. And whereas right now our games are primarily locked in on status, prestige, money, wealth, and power, the new game as a species is going to become how we stay alive individually and as a species. That's what Don't Die is. Don't Die is about individual health, but Don't Die really is trying to answer the fundamental question, what does a species do when you're giving birth to super intelligence? Don't die individually, don't kill each other, don't destroy the planet, align AI with Don't Die. That Don't Die is attempting to be the world's next major global ideology on par with democracy, capitalism, Christianity, Islam. It is meant to say, as a species, this is what we do. This moment can't be overstated in consequence. For centuries, for millennia before, you would say, death is inevitable, therefore, YOLO. I'm going to raise an army and conquer territories. I'm going to go to war.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brian.
I think the new type of censorship is going to be far more intelligent, and I'm already seeing all of the signs of it.
Uncensored, undeniably.
All right, guys, welcome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end the stream right now for what's going on. It looks like Bitcoin's having a little bit of a drop down to 109,980. Nothing too crazy. Right, if you guys are just joining or seeing, we've been covering the Bitcoin conference for the last like hour or two. So like I said, they're just going to basically go over, typical stuff in Bitcoin, a lot of influencers and stuff like that. But obviously you can see not really moving the needle or anything like that for Bitcoin's price, which is typical, right? We always see every year for this, whenever this conference comes out, it doesn't really do anything for Bitcoin itself during the events, which it's not supposed to. So with that being said, guys, make sure you guys slap that like, hit the subscribe if you are new. We usually go live every day, Eastern Standard Time around 6 p.m., and we will be back on a little later. All right, guys? With that, thank you so much. Have a fantastic few hours. I'll see you guys a little later, all right? See ya.